What's up, guys? I'm back with another cut test. Back with another. That was kind of one word, wasn't it? Back on the pretty requested. It's AUS8a in the form of a cold steel Voyager. This has about a 40-degree inclusive, in between 36 and 40. It is a hair whittling edge. AUS8a is incredibly easy to put a hair whittling edge on it. It loves to take a keen edge because there's pretty much no carbides to speak of. But it's still a pretty good steel, in my opinion. Cutting cardboard, it's shown me that it's a pretty good steel, but I have no clue how it's going to react with this rope here. As always, it's about 9 feet of 3/8 inch sisal rope. I would like to talk about the Voyager for a second here. I know I just did a review on cold steel and I gave them a lot of praises, but honestly I didn't sing their praises enough. They make good knives. I don't care what anybody says, they make good knives. This knife, when it's locked open, it literally feels like a fixed blade. I'm not exaggerating. There is not a single thousandth of an inch of movement in any direction, vertical or horizontal. The blade just does not move, period. And you have no blade play when it's open, you have no blade play when it's closed, and if you disengage the lock, the blade swings freely. How do they do that? They don't have a pivot bushing in there. The blade will swing freely when you disengage the lock. How do they do that? There's no blade play. There's no pivot bushing, but it still swings freely. It's pretty amazing. So, going to test initial sharpness, which is hair whittling. There's glue on the spine of that. Very sharp. AUS8a loves to push cut. When it's got a clean edge, it'll just push cut all day. Ready to get to the cutting. Wow, that was easy. Just as I suspected, it's a good cutter. It's ground pretty thin. From what I could tell, it's ground pretty thin, and the handle is extremely comfortable. Wow, that cuts good. Already got a roll in the steel, which is to be expected. This isn't a super hard steel or anything like that. It's just not going to be as strong as most other steels, but it does hold a sharp edge. I don't see any edge damage yet, so that's good. You guys know how I like good cutters. This thing is a good cutter. It does have a thinly ground blade. I mean, I can even back up on, normally I'm up on the spine to get enough force. I can even back up and just let the knife do the cutting. I was doing a lot of push cutting for that first little session. Now I'm doing draw slices. Which, as you can see, are pretty effective. Go ahead and test sharpness again. I didn't get enough paper. If I don't catch it on the rolls, it's still able to get through the paper. Still, actually no problem getting through the paper. If I do my part, it still cuts with relative ease, which is pretty surprising for a steel with no vanadium content to speak of. no carbide content is what I meant to say. But there is also no vanadium to speak of. See if it's still sharp to the touch. Yeah, it's still sharp to the touch. The handle's really comfortable, and the blade is a cutter, so that makes it a win automatically in my book. I had a little bit more rope than normal this time around, so I'm cutting just a little bit bigger chunks off than I normally do. I almost sliced the tip of my thumb off there. It's losing it. It's definitely losing it. But I don't see any edge deformation like I saw with the S35VN blades, which is a good thing. I don't want to see any of that at all anymore in any steel. This is getting hard to manage. I can tell a difference in cutting performance, so it has dulled to the point where it's taking me more force to get through the rope, which is to be expected. It's not going to just keep cutting for days like S90V and ZDP 189. That was it. Look at the edge. Still looks new. But it has all but completely lost its fine cutting edge. It can still saw through it. Here's some printer paper. See how it does with this. Still able to cut it if I don't hang it on the roll, which is to be expected. There's a pretty major roll at the belly portion, which I don't want to call this a fail, because with this steel I normally have a micro bevel on this on these knives. I really do like to run a pretty shallow bevel with a micro bevel for strength, because I feel like this steel needs something like that. It needs a little help in the strength department. So I will normally just add a little micro bevel, and that honestly helps the strength a lot. I should do a retest with a micro bevel on this knife. I still say that it performed admirably though for a steel that's not a super edge holder and doesn't pretend to be. I say it did pretty well. especially since it is just so easy to touch up in the field. If you have a little ceramic rod, you can get it back to hair shaving sharp pretty much instantly, which is a feat in and of itself. So, may not be a super edge holder. I would say it's on the low end of the spectrum. Definitely on the low end of the spectrum. But the important thing is that it did not completely fail like other knives that I've tested, such as S35VN. Well, that's the only steel I've tested that has completely failed. I think I'll just go ahead and show you the edge. Still looks good. So, did not fail, and that's the important thing. If you have a knife that you're going to want to sharpen in the field, if you have a completely warped edge, you're not going to be able to resharpen it. You're going to need some serious repair before you have a sharp knife again, and that is something that should not be acceptable at all. So Cold Steel's AUS8a, I give it a thumbs up. I know that it's not going to hold its edge forever. It doesn't. It's not advertised to, but it does what it needs to do, and it's easy to get it back to sharpness. So I like it. If you're one of those guys that just like steels that love to stay sharp for a long time, you probably won't like it, and there's nothing wrong with that, honestly. Two different ends of the spectrum, and I just so happen to be one of those people that can enjoy both. I'll actually carry this knife a lot, probably, and if I think I'm going to do some abusive tasks, then I'll grab this thing for sure. So anyway, I think VG10 is coming up next, so thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.